What do you got for me?
What's wrong with you people?
I got nothing for you.
What's wrong?
You're not David. How y'all feel this morning? I feel rotten. That's how I feel. Well, that was enough for me. We could have had the benediction right there. That was so good.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to The Reformatory, the podcast for the local church and by the local church, and we are your local churchmen. My name is Josh, and I'm here, as always, with the man with the plan, the man who needs no introduction, but we'll introduce him anyway, the captain, Jack Barry. Jack, how are you, sir?
You are trying to summon Captain America so much, the man with the plan.
Man with the plan.
They said that during First Avenger, didn't they?
I think they did. Well, it's
It was
in
in
this,
a
like,
song,
it's
wasn't
in
it?
this,
Those
yeah, it's in
little
the
show
song, right?
tunes, like
Yeah, when he like punches Hitler in the jaw, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I haven't seen the first Captain America in a while. That's a good film.
That's
That's back when Marvel was cranking out some certified bangers,
yeah,
as the kids would say.
Yeah,
I don't know if they say that anymore, but
No,
Captain America 1 is good.
Yeah, I'm still reeling over this RDJ Doctor Doom
Oh, I know. Yeah.
news.
They know what they're doing.
I mean, they do. It'll be interesting how they pull that off.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. I agree. Jack, I went and did a little something over the weekend.
I know.
Went and
Some
got
of us
me a
have
little
seen
something,
this.
something.
Okay, can you explain?
Yes.
Okay, so spoiler alert, people. Josh got part of the 5 solas tattooed on himself.
That's right.
Are they like Nordic inspired writing?
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%.
Okay.
So basically, I've been planning this out for a couple years.
Okay.
And I knew, like, okay, I am of Nordic lineage. Last name Loftus. If you Google Loftus, Norway, it's actually a place you can go. It's a little touristy fishing village, right in the bottom of one of the fjords, and one of the fjords. And that's where my family's originally from. So I'm very Norwegian. I'm also I'm like half Norwegian and half Lebanese. But the Middle Easterns, I'm leaning more into the Nords these days,
for good reason.
For obvious reasons. I'm feeling more Nordic than Middle Eastern at the moment. But so I'm
Okay, hold on. Can you?
I'm not going to get any Lebanese. My grandpa is Norwegian, my grandma's Lebanese.
Okay, there we go. Okay,
so
I knew it was
that's
some
how
sort
it
of
happened.
mixture.
Yeah, and they both came out. Yeah, and they just met and got married, and boom, here I am, a dark-haired Norwegian. So I've always enjoyed like the Norwegian part of my heritage, right? This is the whitest guy, like my heritage. Like I'm blatantly American. I understand this, but it's cool. It's cool, like being able to actually look back and see like where my family came from.
Yeah.
So I've always leaned into the Nordic side. I always really liked it. And then obviously, like I'm reformed in my theology and biblical, the study of theology and things like that has been a huge part of my life. So what I went and did is I got the 5 solas in Latin in the style of Nordic runes as rings. And I'm holding my arm up right now for those that aren't on YouTube as rings on my arm. So, and then we're going to do a little bit more shading and stuff in there. I got 3 out of the 5 done. I was on the table for 7.5 hours. I got that last one like blacked in and I couldn't do it anymore. I was tired. It was like 9:30 at night.
Oh, bro.
And I'm like, I'm tired. I can't, I'm done with the pain.
Yeah.
For today. And you know what sucks is that I still have to get.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
I still got to get the upper arm.
Yeah.
Shaded in. Like blacked out.
Oh,
that inner arm is going to hurt like so dude, it's gonna hurt so bad.
Did it? Okay, so I don't know. Explain the pain to me. Does it feel like you're getting like just like kind of like hit with like a needle, like almost like you're getting like a shot? Does it feel like that? Just over and over again, or what?
No, like the best way that I can explain it. So it depends on where on the body you're getting it. So he started like right above the wrist, like right here. That felt like someone was taking like the edge of a credit card and just like scraping your skin. It didn't hurt. It was just like just really annoying.
Annoying. Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
By the time he started blacking out my inner arm, not gonna lie, there were moments where it felt like someone was putting like a hot cigarette out on my arm.
Okay.
And it was like, all right, we're in this now. Like we're in this. We're grinning and bearing it. Like, but none of it was to the point where I was like, stop. Like I can't do it.
Yeah.
None of it. I had a few moments where I grit my teeth and just kind of like breathe, and I was like, all right. But like the nice thing about, I don't know if it's the nice thing, I think it tricks your brain, because the way tattooing is, especially when they're doing blackout, is it'll be 5 seconds of just them like grating, and then they have to take the needle away and wipe like the arm off and get more ink, and so you like your brain like has time to like breathe. And then boom, it's back in for like 5 seconds at a time, and then you like 10 seconds break. 5 seconds at a time, 10 seconds break. So that's how you get through it. And it was like that for like 7 hours. And yeah, you definitely earn it. Like people say the best is yet to come. With this tattoo, the worst is yet to come. I've got some time, but I think, what's there right now turned out really well.
Yeah.
And
it looks
the
good.
lines are super clean. And I got Christ alone. I got Solus Christus, Sola Gratia, and Sola Fide done. And I still have to get Sola Deo Gloria. That's at the top. And then Sola Scriptura right beneath it. And then there'll be some other stuff like for the shoulder and things like that I'm going to do. But yeah. It's
gnarly.
Fun. It's fun. I'm going back. Like it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it hurt, but
that's why I only just wear my ring, and that's it. So
I feel you. I think I'm going to get a version of what's on your ring on my shoulder. Yeah, it's not going to be quite the same thing, but it's going to be similar. Yeah. But no, it's cool. It's cool. There's pictures up on socials and stuff like that if you want to check it out. I like how it's turned out. It's about half done. So, Jack, my friend, enough about me. Let's talk about you and this week's Reformatory Cigar of the Week. What do you got for us, my friend?
Yeah, so we are continuing our August is for AJ series, looking at different AJ Fernandez cigars, and we are looking at the New World Cameroon. The New World Cameroon, so it's a version of our first cigar that we did, where it's the favorite of our friend Joe Thorne back in St. Charles, Illinois, in which the New World Maduro. So they have like New Worlds, right? So they made the New World Connecticut. I think it was the New World Connecticut and the New World Maduro that I think they first kind of kicked off that line with for AJ. And then they made the New World Cameroon. I mean, obviously, by what I just said, you will know that it has some sort of Cameroonian tobacco in it, right? From the country of Cameroon in Africa, right? So basically, it's a Nicaraguan Puro, except for the wrapper. So the filler, the binder, is from Nicaragua, and then the wrapper is from Cameroon, right? And depending upon what you get, usually this is kind of slightly box pressed. So kind of what I'm going on right now is just what's called the New World Cameroon Dioble Robusto. So basically it's a Toro sizing cigar. Right. But it's just funny how they do that in kind of their Vitola description of it. But basically, it's like, how can I describe it? As far as flavoring goes, it's pretty much kind of what we usually like to smoke. It has like this earthiness, but also this like oaky kind of smoke. But it's peppery, but also the Cameroon tobacco has kind of like a sweetness to it, and then it's kind of like almost like when you barbecue with wood.
Yeah.
Kind of has that kind of like different kind of tasting or smelling notes to it as well too.
Right.
So pretty interesting cigar.
Yep.
This came out I think in around 2019, I think late 2018, 2019, the New World Cameroon came out. But Josh, we always have to ask this.
Yes.
What do you think is the MSRP on this particular selection of cigar?
I'm going $8.75.
A little bit, tad bit high. Just a tad bit.
Nice. Okay.
So usually it can run anywhere between $5 to $8, depending upon your sizings.
Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad.
Pretty good cigar, pretty good pricing. Usually it'll score anywhere between the low 90s to like the high 80s as far as a lot of different cigar people have started to rate it. I still think it's a really good everyday smoke. It's not really heavy, but it's nice. Probably for like you could probably do it for like a morning or like an afternoon's everyday smoke if you do that. So, but the New World Cameroon, and this particular selection is the Doble Robusto. So
love it.
It's a Toro.
Love
anyway,
that's fantastic.
That's our selection of the week, sir.
Excellent, my friend. Well done, as always. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here, possibly for the first time. That is the Reformatory Cigar of the Week, and you know what to do, my friends. Go and smoke to the glory of God. All right, Jack. This one's for the ladies. This one is for the girls who just want to have fun. No. This one, I'm trying to think of all the other songs. Isn't there like, yes, of the world? Yeah. We're going to talk about today a topic that I do not believe is addressed enough. And that is the expectations / responsibilities that land on the wives of those in ministry. Okay. I can attest from personal experience that the wives of pastors are not given enough to do. No, I'm kidding. That's completely the opposite. Jack was like, hold on. We should have had a pre-meeting.
Well, we're canceled. Nope.
Yeah, end of the Reformatory.
We're done.
We're done. Yes, that's right. No. So fellas, this one's for the ladies, okay? But we still want you to listen because it's important, all right? But no, in all seriousness, all right? All jokes aside, all right? I know the ladies that listen have good sense of humor, so I'm hopefully they're laughing. But all jokes aside, there's a really weird dynamic when it comes to wives of pastors, and I would say even wives of deacons too in some churches, right? Depending on kind of what those roles look like and how they're defined. Yeah. That when a church hires a guy, right, to come in and fill that role, or they're bringing a guy up, right, from the congregation to fulfill that role of pastor or deacon, right? Often there can be an expectation that comes with that role that the wife of that individual is also taking on responsibilities herself. Case in point, you hire a young guy to be your preaching pastor, right? He's married. There are many churches who will hire this individual, and the unspoken reality is that they're getting a 2-for-1 deal, and that they're going to pay for the pastor, right? And they're going to support him, but they also have great expectations for the wife as well. And there's expectations that the wife will lead the women's ministry, or lead the nursery, or lead Bible studies, or engage in pastoral counseling, right? Obviously not pastoral, but counseling, like with the pastor, or counseling the women in the church. And there's this there's this, I would say, there's this idea of what a pastor's wife is supposed to look like, and it's very much just a female version of her husband.
Yeah.
And that if the husband's leading all of these things and engaged in all of these things and doing all of these things, well, the wife is supposed to be doing that exact same thing because they're married, right? And this is a mentality that is prevalent in a lot of churches.
Yeah.
And I know my wife has experienced this in our time in ministry.
Yeah.
That kind of unspoken or sometimes spoken expectation that if you're going to be in ministry here, speaking about me, right, then we also expect your wife to be engaged in the local church in these specific ways. And we'll dig in more to this. I want to throw it over to you, Jack, and hear your thoughts just on that as a premise. But I have thoughts, and I have and they're all against this expectation, and this understanding of what a pastor's wife is called to do. But I want to throw it over to you before we dig into some of the thoughts I've got.
Yeah, I'm okay. So here's where I would say my recruitment background comes into play.
Ooh.
When I talk to different people who are interested in different roles for the company that I work for, or companies I've worked for, I don't necessarily talk about their families, but I talk about a lot of different things that affect their family, right? And when I hire somebody, I don't hire them and then hire their wife or their spouse or their kids too, right? And I think that I get it to a certain effect that when you're a church and you want to bring up a new elder or pastor, like their whole family kind of comes with them. But I would say that you're bringing up that certain pastor for their specific gifts, not their kids and not their wives' gifts. If their kids are Christian, hopefully the wife and the man are in a Christian marriage. Like that's assumed. Right. Okay, that's assumed. Both of them are Christians.
Right.
Both of them have gifts. Right.
Yeah.
But you're not, as a congregation, you're not bringing up an elder and his wife to do the same or extension of his ministry. You're bringing only that man into that role specifically so that he can function as that elder or pastor. You're not trying to just, that'd be equating it to me to being like, okay, I work at the company that I work at. Oh, hey, honey, why don't you do half of this PowerPoint for me? Here you go.
Right. Sure.
She's not getting compensated for that. And why? And I hate to say this, but it's like, that's what we have to put guardrails on what's expected of pastors and their wives and maybe even of their kids.
Right.
Because I feel like a lot of people, this is where maybe like some interesting conversations could come about, because I feel like so much of the time guys kind of take their families with them to certain places, and then their kids and their wives start serving in a church when they become a pastor.
Right.
But I wonder if the conversation has even been like, do you guys even want to serve in these capacities, or am I just forcing this on you?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I hate to frame it in a corporate mindset because I hate doing that, but I have to use that as an illustration to say, like, you as a pastor are equipped and have been raised up because of your giftings.
Right.
And that does not extend or be, and that's not imputed onto your wife or your kids.
Right.
And so there's kind of like, there's a protective layer to this.
Well, there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that needs to happen too, because I think that if you incorporate your wife and your kids too much into it, then I think there's like this, I don't know, there's an unhealthiness that happens, but I also think there could be some alienation that happens with that too.
Oh, 100%.
So,
I mean, look, anytime anybody, no matter what role you're in, if you are acting or working in a, like, let's just put it in the secular realm, right? And then we'll bring it over to church. If you're in a job that you don't like, that sucks the life out of you, that you're not equipped for, that you don't enjoy, like, we all know what that feels like, right? Yeah. And to piggyback on your example, Jack, like, yes, it is a corporate example, but we wouldn't, like, if you were to act that way with your wife, like, hey, wife, this, this is my job, right? Like, so, sweetheart, why don't you take half of it? Or if you're hiring some guy to be a mechanic, you're not also asking, so, like, what's your wife going to do while you're at work? It's not even a question, right? But because it's part of the church, we have a tendency to spiritualize it in a way that is not healthy and not biblical, and therefore expectations get put on, right? Yeah. So, and you 100% like hit it, I think, the nail right on the head. When expectations are placed on an individual that are not biblical and that are not warranted, they are not going to find life in those expectations. They're not going to thrive in those. There's not going to be joy in those. All the things that should come from serving in a local church and being part of that community and part of that family, all the things that should be part of that, it's going to rip it away because you're automatically forcing them to act in a way and in a role that maybe God has not equipped them to do. Right? Yeah. Because look, again, if we're going to put this in terms of bringing up a pastor, right? Say a church is in need of a pastor to preach. Like, they need a full-time preaching pastor. You're going to hire a guy that knows how to preach. Yeah. At least you probably should, if the Lord, if you're able to, right? But you make that distinction and that careful consideration of gifts and qualifications when it comes to the pastor, but when it comes to the wife, you're just like, well, I mean, she's just a package deal. So, like, if her husband has this, of course she does. Yeah. And wives, like, pastors' wives get so forgotten and so just kind of pushed to the wayside when it comes to their individuality within the local church. Just because she might be married to one of the elders does not mean that God has gifted her the way that he has those elders. Right? Yeah. Now, granted, there are some couples, right, that enter into ministry that have very similar gifts, right? And the guy comes into eldership, in pastoral ministry, he's doing his thing, and the wife has very similar gifts. Maybe she is very gifted in teaching. Maybe she is very gifted in counseling. Maybe she is very gifted in administration, things that are very much more kind of upfront and seen within the local church. If that's how the Lord has equipped her to serve the body, then great, awesome, praise the Lord for that, right? Everyone has a place, right, to fit. But the problem is that in so many churches has become the expectation that if you're going to be a pastor's wife, then it's kind of like the president and first lady. There's like this first lady mentality that, if your husband's in this role, there's responsibility for you too. You have to be doing, this and this and this, and the first lady's responsible for this and this and this, right? And I would go so far to say, and I'm not basing it off of anything that I have seen or any studies that I've seen. I could be wrong. My gut tells me that the vast majority of pastors and elders' wives, again, we use those terms synonymously, have very different giftings than their husbands. Yeah. Because I know my personality, the personality that I have that I think helps with the gifts that I have. If I was married to someone like me, I would go crazy. just being transparent, right? Wow. Right? Like, I can see so clearly, especially the older I get, how I would drive me nuts.
Yeah.
Okay. And it took a very special woman in my life to put up with me, and God knew that. Right. And I think when we have wives of elders that are being treated and has the expectations on them, just like the other elders, then we're doing something wrong, and we're just going to continue to grind like that woman's joy and
Yeah.
and happiness and peace in the body. We're just going to grind that into a ground because you're expecting her and have expectations of her of things that she hasn't been gifted to do. And there is nothing worse. I can tell you from experience, there is nothing worse than living under unspoken expectations
Yeah.
that don't give you joy, and it's not what the Lord has equipped you to do.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's, I don't know. I think there's just something to be said to if you're looking for a certain elder, like you're focusing on that person and that man's qualifications. You're not
Right.
looking outside of it. Or if you are looking outside of it, you're only doing it in a biblical way, right? You're only looking at the qualifications of an elder that's outlined in the, First and Second Timothy and Titus, right? So you're only looking at the outside qualities that way, but you're not imputing that wife needs to understand the intricacies of biblical and systematic theologies, right? Or they need to know how to exegete text in order to communicate it, right? You're not looking outside of that particular pastoral or elder candidate to do that, to fulfill that. You're looking at them specifically. Can they do this? Can they equip the saints in this way versus what we've been used to?
Right.
And yeah, I think that extension stuff, I think it's so tough because I think about this all the time. I think about what would we have as far as like polling or really good data on talks like this. Like if I could poll 1,000 pastors and their wives and have some sort of way to do that and get like really sustainable factoids from the data that we got, it would probably show that, yeah, as a pastor's wife, I don't want to be the extension of what my husband does.
Right. Yeah.
Because
Exactly.
I don't want to go up on stage. My gifts are not going up on stage and preaching and teaching and looking at a text in the Old Testament and trying to pull out the intricacies of it and then apply it to our congregation, and I think the nature of how God brings different men and women together, I don't think a lot of women would want that to begin with.
Yeah. Well, because she already has to deal with it.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
she'd already have to deal with it twice, right?
Yeah.
Because that elder's coming home and he's talking to his wife.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And she's hearing the things that are going on, and she's hearing his thoughts. She's hearing him vent, right? She's hearing, him share like the burdens that are there and what's going on with the church. Like, she already has to deal with so much more than she's probably like maybe at the beginning like signed up for just because of how ministry works, right?
Yeah.
For us to add something else, it is just you're adding more weight onto something that is going to eventually break her, right? Now, does this mean that wives of elders should have zero expectations on them whatsoever? No. There are huge expectations on elders' wives.
Yeah.
And it's the exact same expectations that are on every other Christian that goes to a local church and then is a part of it.
Yeah.
And that is that you are committing to that local body. You're making it central in your life. You're not forsaking the gathering. you're invested in each other's lives, and you're using the gifts that God has equipped you with specifically to further the mission of the gospel and to love and care for your brothers and sisters. That's what we do. That's what every Christian does, right? Maybe that does look like leading a women's Bible study. Maybe that does look like getting involved in counseling and helping women, within your church go through hard stuff. Maybe that does look like being like the church admin or the church secretary and, organizing small groups or, organizing, nursery and, food trains. Like maybe that's what gives you joy. Cool. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it means, meeting one-on-one with somebody for coffee and hanging out and seeing how they're doing. Maybe it means making somebody some food that is sick because God gave you the ability to cook and bake. Maybe that means, setting up time to, do things, again, one-on-one with people. The Lord equips, maybe that means like making coffee in the morning, handing out bulletins, right? Mm-hmm. What are the ways that God has equipped you to be invested in the local church? Whether you are a pastor's wife or you're not, that is your calling ultimately. And God has equipped everyone differently. So we've got to get away from this mentality that the pastor's wife is just supposed to be like you said, Jack, kind of an extension of the pastor.
Yeah.
And start looking at her as what she is. And that's a Christian. She's a Christian that is committed to this local body. Mm-hmm. So what are the expectations we have of Christians that are committed to a local body? That you're invested, you're committed, and you're serving in the ways that the Lord has given you. And sometimes, depending on the church and the circumstances, sometimes that service is just taking care of her husband.
Yeah.
Because maybe you're going through a really tough time in ministry, and your husband is discouraged, or he's tired and he's weary because of all the meetings or the schedule or whatever it is, right? Maybe your job is just making sure that he has a place that he can come home to that is free from drama, like a place that he knows he can be himself, a place that he knows he can be heard, that he can say what's on his mind, and that he's going to receive encouragement and good counsel. Maybe it's a place that he can show up and cry because pastors do. And it's a safe space. It's a safe place for him to go and know that he's going to be heard and he's going to be cared for. Maybe that's your role right now. And God bless you. God bless you for that, because everyone needs that, not just pastors. Everyone needs a place where that can be real for them, right? And maybe that's the role that God has for you. And if so, awesome. Fantastic. But we got to get away from this expectation, unwritten expectations. Pastors' wives are Christians. Yes, they are. They go through unique things because of who they're married to. They're going to experience unique things. They're going to be privy to unique things, and they're going to walk through unique things. It's not just like there is uniqueness to being the wife of a pastor, right? Yeah. But the expectations should not be different. Mm-hmm. You should serve the local church with how God has gifted you, and in that there will be joy, and that's the way that it should be. So
yeah, I think Big Eva has sung on that.
Okay,
so.
Well then, let's get out of here. Let's go record a couple Patreons, and we are good for another week, my friend.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, if you appreciate Josh and I edifying and exhorting the women behind the elders and the pastors of your local churches, and you want to continue to support us in different ways, or maybe DM us on this issue, maybe, I don't know, I wouldn't call it an issue, but DM us on this subject, or a message or anything like that, or ask us further questions. You can follow us on the sociables. Mm-hmm. You can direct message us there. You can send us episode ideas, if you will, on the Facebook, the Metaverse, the Instagram, as well with Chocolate and Marshmallow, and the sociable formerly known as Twitter X, if you will, all at the tag @ReformatoryPod. Josh, you can tell the lovely people how they might support us in our endeavors to make the local church central into the believer's life.
That's right.
and other endeavors.
That's right. Well, we have a YouTube, the YouTubes. If you want to watch this podcast as well as listen to it, you can see the video portion of the podcast, the video version, I guess. It's not a portion, it's the whole thing. Video version of the podcast over there. Find us on the YouTubes at Reformatory Podcast. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the little bell for notifications, as the kids say. We really appreciate that. Maybe share it with a friend that you think maybe needs some encouragement. Maybe you know, or you're friends with some pastors' wives that have gone through this. Maybe share this up with them. Tell them we appreciate them. We really do, and we hope that they are being encouraged in the role that God has them. So you can do that. That'd be awesome. You could we hope we hope you like it. You could rate this podcast and review this podcast on Apple and Spotify. That'd be really awesome. Helps get the podcast up to more people. Last but not least, we have a Patreon, all access. We call it the Podluck because it's like a potluck, but it's a podcast. See what we did there? Yeah, absolutely. That's the level that we're working on right now, Jack. It's next level. It's next level brilliance. I'll be honest. But for $5 a month, that's it. $5 a month, you could become a member of the Patreon and have all of the rights thereunto. And if you do so, for a $5 holla, our pledge to you is that your name shall be hallowed.
Hallowed, sir. Hallowed.
Hallowed through the halls of the podcast. That is our pledge to you. We thank you all for listening, and we will catch you on the next step of the Reformatory.